All right. Hello, everybody. Today, we're going to go through my pre and post launch SEO audit checklist. I have a very handy template created that is pretty exhaustive. Some might seem a little unnecessary, but it's very important when doing migrations to be a little crazy with it because there's so much that can get left off, forgotten, overlooked that can be pretty impactful in a bad way. So to start off, I would recommend visiting my website and reading through the article, opening up the checklist. I'll also link these below in the description. But we'll open up Google Sheet, and there are two tabs, one for pre-launch and one for post-launch. They're pretty similar in terms of the things you got to check, but the priority and the order might change up a little bit. And then they're broken out by tracking, technical, on-page, and off-page. But feel free to optimize this any way you want, make it work for yourself, but kind of just stick with the structure of the task, details, who owns it, and you can specifically call people out on your team if needed, whether or not there needs to be a deliverable. If you're presenting this to some higher ups, what's the acceptance criteria, meaning, how do we check this off as done? Any notes for future, like do we need to follow up on something? And then just tracking the status. And then I documented any priority task in red, meaning if you are limited on time, just make sure you do these at least if you don't do anything else, because these are very, very important ones. Okay, so to start with the pre-launch, kind of working our way down, really want to make sure the tracking is set up. So are your KPIs tracked properly? Are you going to be knowing that you're going to be collecting the form fills, where they're coming from, what journeys people took there? If you're an e-commerce site, are you properly tracking those metrics, whether it's in Adobe or Google Analytics? Same with that, organic traffic and analytics review. This is a little bit more on the benchmarking side. What have the top pages been? Are they going to be the same on the future site after migration? So kind of take a baseline so you can make sure that after the launch, probably a month or two after, is the traffic similar? If not, and it increased, awesome. If it tanked, well, now we got to go back. This is why we took the benchmark. What happened? And then pretty basic, essential one though, ensuring that the tracking is added on the site. You might not want to have it added too soon because you don't want to be bringing in, QA, UAT data to your analytics instance, but just making sure with working with the analytics team that the tracking code will be firing at the time of migration. Then diving down into the technical, this is one that always gets kind of interesting in the migration process, is the scans, both the front end and XML. There's so many different people usually working on the site that dummy pages are created. The content migration process, usually there's a lot of different content people or marketing people working. So there's extra pages. So even in WordPress ones, you'll see like -1, -2. Constantly be scanning the site to make sure that extra pages aren't being thrown in there. The canonicals are correct. The URL structure and site architecture makes sense, is logical, will help the users. Keep checking the title tags, H1s, the basic SEO 101s, incorporating those target keywords that we'll cover in the on-page section. You'll also want to be documenting any of the old URLs plus the new URLs for when we get to the 301 redirect mapping. Any structured data that you can implement at this time. Usually in the web migration process, you can really get a lot of SEO task implemented just because there's a lot of eyes on the site. You want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward. Always check the canonicals, any unnecessary JavaScript content. One of the worst parts about SEO migrations is usually going to a more complicated tech stack, and hopefully you're not going to some single page application or complex JavaScript setup, but keep a close eye on any content that is client side rendered versus server side rendered. Same with page speed, if there's any massive images being uploaded or any unnecessary JavaScript being brought over, just see what you can do with the dev team to clean that up. And then in the technical, the priority tasks, make sure that XML sitemap is clean. Same with the front end scans, make sure there's no any extra or extraneous 301s, 404s, anything like that. Your robots.txt file, ensure that disallow all is going to be removed and that you're properly blocking anything that you need to at the time of launch. Same with the redirects and the Google Search Console setup. Very important task for when we get into the post-launch. Then down into the on-page, again, you might have a different team structure. Some technical people might be handling above, some on-page content people might be handling this one, but keyword research, any new content that's being created, making sure that you're benchmarking for that. Same with the current rankings, and then also check out the competition. Is there any areas that they're ranking well for that you guys might not have any visibility into? So now's the time to make sure that you're putting that best foot forward. Internal linking and content review, just all little audits that you can do. Same with the image optimization, kind of up above with the page speed audit. These are all areas that ideally you would handle in the migration process. But if you were, tight on time, document these things in the notes section, say backlog number 1, backlog number 2, prioritize these for right after launch, because there's not going to be a lot of technical stuff you're going to want to do after the migration, because you're going to kind of want to let the dust settle and let the crawlers kind of navigate and find the new site. But this content stuff is exactly what you will want to do right after migration. Then last thing here, just the off-page domain audits. If you're migrating or combining any different domains, benchmark them, see what the keyword rankings are, making sure that you're having one-to-one redirects ideally for any pages that are being combined or removed or anything like that. And then identify your local SEO profiles, document them. If there's any name changes, content changes, URLs need to be updated, just make sure that's accounted for. Another good task for the post-launch if you are kind of letting the dust settle. So pretty exhaustive list for the pre-launch. You can always, add, remove, change anything here. But hopefully this gives you a good start before you dive into the actual migration process. And what you'll want to do is really create a nice connection with the development team, the project team, to make sure that you have an open line of communication, because lots of things can go wrong in SEO with the migration. So make sure you have that connection in case that happens. So now we launched, we want to start doing pretty much the same reviews again to make sure nothing was left off, forgotten, or anything like that. So starting again at the top, verify that tracking is active. Very, very important. Analytics codes get left off a lot. Or you might be using a dummy one just on there. So make sure that the proper UA code or Adobe tracking code is thrown on there. Same with the KPIs and reporting. Are you properly tracking those form fills, e-commerce coming through? What's your reporting cadence? Are you collecting enough data so that you're ready for when the report times do come to show that this migration was a success? So making sure you're set up for all that stuff. Then the technical, this is probably the biggest area. Crawl that XML sitemap. If it's clean, error-free, submit it to Google Search Console, big webmaster tools. Start crawling the front end too. Make sure that there's no index, blocked by robots.txt, or any unnecessary crawl errors. Verify the redirects from the old site. Hopefully you saved a lot of those URLs so that you can throw them into Screaming Frog with the old domain, old URL structure, and make sure that they 301 one-to-one redirect to the new URLs. Verify your SSL, and if you are using www or non-www, make sure that they redirect accordingly and you're not having two different versions of the site out there. Verify that robots.txt file. So many migrations are botched by leaving that disallow all on there. If you are changing your domain, initiate the change of address in Google Search Console, so have both properties in the same account. And you can trigger Google to say, hey, everything is moving over here. Just another strong signal you can send them. And then these last two, verify crawling and rendering, kind of go hand in hand with the browser and mobile capability. I've been part of a lot of rescue missions for migrations where certain websites didn't work well on Firefox or Safari or Chrome, things like that. So just be very vigilant in testing whether things work on your phone, that Google can access certain JavaScript files, nothing's blocked, but also making sure that everything renders properly on websites, different browsers. Then after that, again, just more verification, the crawl depth, your 404 page is working correctly and not 301 to the home page. I don't know why WordPress has that as an option. It blows my mind. But visibility audits, page speed audits, and then keep monitoring Google Search Console as the days and weeks go by after the migration to make sure nothing's going wrong. But yeah, keep documenting things in your notes and adding to your backlog. There will be plenty of work for you to do, I'm sure. Same with the on-page, just keep building the backlog, whether there's different page titles or descriptions that weren't working, any internal links you can create. But keep an eye out for any content you need to create or gaps. There's different audits that I have that can show you if you do have any gaps or areas that you need to improve on, and document this all in the content calendar. Hopefully you had a successful migration with the technical setup that you don't need to do too heavy of an investment into technical optimization, so you can really focus a lot with the on-page and content that will help your users. And then the last one, the off-page. Verify your local SEO profiles, keep doing competitor audits and the backlink analysis and local SEO, like I just mentioned above. Hopefully the technical can take a little bit of a break as you just did so much, let the dust settle, and really take this time to build up the different areas of SEO, being the on-page and off-page, and anything that you can do to help your users. But continue to just keep auditing, revisit some of these different tasks to make sure everything's clean. If you are noticing a drop in traffic, definitely research the different tasks from the pre-launch audit and see was anything missed, left off. But if there are any issues that you are noticing with this audit or anything that you are just confused about, please reach out to me on my website or my social channels. Always happy to help. Thanks, guys.